Mr. President, you know another concern of the West is Iran's nuclear program. Would you consider entering a special agreement, a special sort of situation with the Atomic Energy Agency for a special monitoring, if that would lessen the fears of the people you say you want to have a better dialogue with?
We are a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The official representatives of the International Atomic Energy Agency have inspected our facilities in Iran several times and have publicly declared that we are not planning on building nuclear weapons and only aim to employ nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. It is ironic that those who are so concerned about saving humanity from nuclear weapons fully support Israel, which is a nuclear power, and is unwilling to join the NPT or accept IAEA safeguards, while leveling allegations against Iran, which has not even been able to complete its first nuclear power plant that began before the revolution. These are all pretexts for imposing certain policies on Iran and the region, and to create panic and mistrust. We are not a nuclear power and do not intend to become one. We have accepted IAEA safeguards, and our facilities are routinely inspected by that agency.
Mr. President, you are the president of Iran. You've made certain promises to the people of Iran, and now you've said certain things about dialogue with other countries. Can you implement your promises to the people of Iran? Do you have the authority and the room to maneuver? And in foreign policy, are you able to implement foreign policy?
Surely, after being elected, one should abide by one's promises and not to retract on them. I'm determined to fulfill my promises, and I believe the atmosphere is conducive and would improve day by day. Each person will carry out his tasks in his legal capacity. The President shoulders the important task of enforcing the Constitution. I have set up a Constitution monitoring group for the first time ever, and this group is actively working to locate instances of violations or incorrect enforcement of the Constitution. We will seriously address any shortcoming in the implementation or violation of the Constitution, and we shall succeed. Iran has only one government which makes decisions on domestic and foreign policy within the framework of its duties. Of course, there are many issues that should be approved by the Parliament. The overall policies are determined by the eminent leadership, but it is the government that has to enforce them. I feel there is no barrier along the way of the government authority, and the government accepts its own responsibility. We will surely implement any policy that we formulate. It is possible that preliminary steps in certain areas might need time. But when we arrive at a policy, we will definitely carry it out. The government is responsible to carry out duties associated with its sovereign responsibilities in the society.
There's quite a lot of opposition from the conservative faction. How are you able to operate within this climate?
When we speak of democratic government or government of the people, it means that we accept opposition. We cannot possibly have a society with no opposition at all. Such differences of opinion are natural, and they are to be found in all societies. We should learn not to allow such differences to turn into confrontations, but to direct them into their legal channels. Certainly, there are elements who are opposing our government, but so long as their opposition is practiced within the provisions of the Constitution, we certainly respect them. But those wishing to impose their will against the law will naturally be dealt with through the proper legal channels. We accept both internal differences as well as any opposition that accepts the constitutional framework, even if they openly oppose the government.
On the one hand, a lot of people want more openness, more freedoms, all the things that you have even talked about. You're also appointing reform-minded ministers. On the other hand, there are still, if I could call them thugs, who are on the streets interfering with women who they don't like their appearance, preventing certain professors from going to school. There's a confrontation. Where can you lead this confrontation?
I do not consider this a serious conflict. Of course, there are various tendencies which were present during the elections as well. The people have made their decision. What I have said and continue to insist on is that the rule of law should be paramount, and no one should consider himself above the law and try to impose his views on others. Some of these frictions are quite natural in a democratic society. Our objective is to bring everything within the framework of the law. There may be occasional irregularities and actions outside the legal framework, but we will spare no effort to institutionalize the rule of law. Of course, to begin with, we have to create understanding amongst ourselves and learn to tolerate each other. You cannot bring about understanding and tolerance in the society by force. We are determined that there should only be one government in the society, and everyone must submit to the law. I think that it is universally accepted that law is the basis of social order. Fortunately, our leader fully subscribed to this view. I hope that we can take more and more practical steps for the realization of the rule of law in our society.
Nonetheless, there are two factions that seem to have been identified in Iran right now, the more conservative and the one that you lead, the reform-minded, the more moderate. Where do you think Iran will be 1 year from now? Will there be the freedoms and openness that you have talked about?
Let these divisions find their meaning within their own context. Terms such as conservative, moderate, and the like are more often meaningful in the West. Of course, we have differences of opinion in Iran too, and one political tendency firmly believes in the prevalence of logic and the rule of law, while there might be another tendency that believes it is entitled to go beyond the law. Anyway, such issues need tolerance, and we must try to bring about such an understanding as to enable us to stay together while having differences of view, but not let things become chaotic. Should we carefully prepare the ground for the implementation of the law in our society, there shall be no problem vis-à-vis such oppositions. I consider them natural, and we need not worry about it. Of course, reaching an ideal society with all its affairs in proper order needs time. We have the necessary patience, so do our people, and we shall all try to move towards an orderly society where logic and law reign supreme.
Mr. President, thank you very much for joining us.
I thank you very much, and I thank all dear viewers for their patience.